Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
TaxAct's filing software and live tax experts can help small businesses easily knock out their taxes. Actually, our experts can help you find deductions and credits for any sized business. Itty-bitty businesses, medium-sized, really big, mid-sized, small businesses, companies with 0 employees, and mom-and-pop conglomerates. Yep, our tax experts can help all of them. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, hello. I can't believe it. The Supreme Court did it. Tried to render presidential action illegal. The whole thing with the tariffs, the emergency tariffs that were imposed to straighten out the trade situation, guess what? The swamp doesn't like it. Chief Justice John Roberts. What beyond a disappointment. He was a disappointment in 2007. All right, we knew he was a traitor. But this, well, that's the John Roberts court. That's John Roberts, the Chief Justice, hates Trump. Always looking to stick it to Trump. If you think this was done on the merits, you're wrong, right? There are politicians in robes, especially you, Amy Coney Barrett. Who's the other one? Gorsuch. You actually agree with Elena Kagan. You agree with Ketanji Brown Jackson. You agree with, who's the other one there? Did I say Sotomayor? It's incredible. Now, what does this mean? Are we really going to have to pay back billions and billions and billions of dollars to these countries that were ripping us off for billions and billions and billions of dollars? I can't believe that. I don't think that's the case here. President Trump is about to speak out on this 6-3 decision that basically said the tariffs were illegal that we imposed. One preliminary estimate suggests that alternative executive or legislative action to replace the tariffs. This ruling could increase projected deficits by about $2 trillion over the next decade, according to the, what is that? The Congressional House, the Congressional CBO, budget office there. $2 trillion. How about that to throw a grenade into the system? You think this was about? No. This is it never should have made to the Supreme Court. Can't believe this happened. President Trump is probably outraged. We're going to be seeing him any second now in the White House. Any second now. Everybody panicked, right? They lost their minds, and then these things went into effect, and guess what happened? It worked to America's benefit. And here is the swamp. May not have worked to lobbyist benefits, may not have worked to certain corporations. Other countries may have been very upset and used their lobbying power, their agents, both above board and, the spies, the sabotage, the other things they use. Well, this is really, what does it mean? I got to tell you, I am not the economic person. There are economic people I really like Steve Moore and Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro is fantastic. A little bit long-winded. He hasn't been the same since he got out of jail. But, wow. I can't believe it. This is so massive. Now, I am going to actually put it out on the table again. I guess this is an option now, because when President Biden was ordered that you cannot just forgive trillions of dollars in student loan, and he did it anyway, the Supreme Court said you can't do that. And Joe Biden said, I'm going to blow it off. He actually followed AOC's advice. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, well, that ruling is wrong and we disagree with it, so let's not go along with it. It was not only on that, it was a bunch of other things. Cut 16, if you don't mind, please. Cut 16.
There has been thought, I believe, given to this. Senator Ron Wyden has already issued statements, for example, advising what we should do in a situation like this, which I concur, which is that I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. I think that we, the courts have the legitimacy and they rely on the legitimacy of their rulings. And what they are currently doing is engaged in an unprecedented and dramatic erosion of the legitimacy of the courts. It is the justices themselves, through the deeply partisan and unfounded nature of these rulings, that are undermining their own enforcement.
So you're saying the Biden administration should ignore this court, but what does that look like? What does that actually mean?
I think the interesting thing when it comes to a ruling is that it relies on enforcement. And it is up to the Biden administration to choose whether or not to enforce such a ruling.
Isn't that interesting? They have determined what the law is, but they're going to blow off enforcement. Now, I don't think that's what President Trump is going to come out and say today. In fact, he has a record of saying, we're going to appeal, and then we'll lose in the district court, but we'll appeal to the 5th district, and then at the appellate level, we'll probably lose, but then we'll go to the Supreme Court and hopefully we'll win. He's talked like that. He also said, we're going to follow the court's ruling. We're going to follow the court. That's his thing. And, there's always, when it comes to lawyers and rulings, there's always wiggle room, right? And there's always an escape hatch. And this is an extremely technical topic. The emergency trade provisions of this thing that goes all the way back to like 1910. Right? There's open to interpretation, and they could probably do it under another rubric. I wonder what President Trump is going to say. He's either going to say, this is the worst thing that ever happened and we're screwed, or, we're going to work our way through this and we're going to find a solution and we're going to make a deal. And maybe you could make a deal with Congress. I don't know. Hey, the other thing is some people are chomping at the bit because Prince Andrew has been arrested. And he has not been arrested for child sex. All right. That's another thing. He's been arrested, although in a weird way, because of the child sex scandal, which is not a child sex scandal. Now, Prince Andrew, if he did have sex with Virginia Jeffrey, if that's her name, that's not been proven. I know, I've seen the picture myself. He's got his hand around her waist. If you're Mrs. Prince Andrew, it might not be the best picture in the world, but I've seen lots of people pose for pictures like that. Married people, single people. I'm actually quite mindful of that myself. I'm not one to go places where I'm not invited. You know what I mean? I'm not going to put my arm around some woman, you know what I mean, for a picture that I don't know. And I see politicians, they do it all the time. They grab them about their waist. And you can see the hand. I've seen Bush do it a million times. It's funny. You know who you don't see do it? Ever? President Trump. And you know what he does when he takes a picture? He puts that big thumbs up. He puts a big thumbs up. He doesn't go around hugging people. When did America start, by way of saying hello, if it's a woman, you kiss? And that couldn't have been that way in the 50s, right? And when did that start? Even if you don't know anybody that well, you hug. That's a relatively new thing. What's up? Is he coming out? All right. They got the thing all set up. President Trump is going to come out and say something, and it's going to be, while we wait for that, I want to play this thing from Les Wexner. Who is Les Wexner? He is the former head of Victoria's Secret underwear, but he's got 50 other businesses. He's incredibly wealthy. And he allowed Jeffrey Epstein to manage his money. And he went to the committee there the other day, the oversight committee, and they asked him questions. And he's one of these guys, I know the feeling, you want to explain everything. Everybody's been saying all kinds of stuff about him, and he wants to explain everything. And his lawyer doesn't like it, as lawyers, they don't want you saying too much. They'll say that in any deposition. This is not sinister. If you ever have to be deposed, they tell you how to be deposed, and they tell you things like, answer the question, don't answer questions that they don't ask. Well, Les Wexner was doing that. Again, a billionaire. Epstein was managing his money, and it said that they were very close, although I don't know that to be true. Here he is, cut 15, talking before the House Oversight Committee, and that's his lawyer you hear butting in from time to time. Cut 15.
You mentioned your chief of staff. For the record, who is that?
His name is Bruce Saul, and I met him through an acquaintance.
Answer the question.
Okay.
It's going to help if you answer the question that he asks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Stop for a second. He said, who was your chief of staff? And he said, Bruce Saul, who I met through an acquaintance. So Bruce Saul was an answer to the question. The other part, he didn't have to say, he just volunteered it. It's kind of natural. I don't think I would have ever noticed that. But in a deposition, you're supposed to not volunteer information like that. Let them get it, all right? So he keeps doing that, which is a human tendency. Keep going.
Faster. But as I look back at it, it was part of the con. So I never met Meyerwald.
Can I have 1 second? Because I think it will move this thing along a little faster. Tell him the story. Okay? Just answer the question.
Okay. I think I'm giving a long answer, but to understand in context, because if I just say yes or no, you won't understand it. And I really want this whole group to understand it. And I never would have guessed I was being conned. Never, ever. The deceit was so subtle. Yes, I know.
Answer the question.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure we all appreciate the stories. We're just trying to answer the questions that they actually want to be answered.
Okay. That's very helpful.
So he keeps going on like this. And at one point, he says, if you answer another question like that, I'm going to effing kill you. He whispers it to him. But he's clearly joking, and he's clearly, he's smiling, and it's the kind of thing that a friend would say. I'm going to freaking kill you if you keep this up. You're driving me crazy. It was almost embarrassing for the lawyer, mildly embarrassing. You got this old man who, knows everything's okay, wants people to like him, wants people to understand, and he wants to say more. And most people are not accustomed to being deposed. Even if you've been deposed, there's this inclination to just, oh, these are my friends. I'm going to just explain everything and everything's going to be fine. No, it doesn't. No, they're not your friends. While we wait for President Trump, I think this is a very interesting thing to remind people of. The heart of the Jeffrey Epstein sex scandal, right? The big part of it, the idea that it's a pedophile ring, came from a woman named Virginia Jeffrey. I've never heard that name other than with this woman who's dead now. It's believed that she committed suicide. She also gave the world a heads up. There's a lot of things people don't know. A judge thought she was such a bad mother, ruled that you can't be with your own children. She lied about everything. And you're going to hear her saying stuff and Alan Dershowitz, and it's all very interesting, okay? Go ahead if you don't mind, please. Go ahead.
I was with Alan Dershowitz multiple times. At least 6 that I can remember. Well, I was trafficked to Alan Dershowitz from Epstein. Epstein made me, essentially, forced me to have sex with him.
Stop. This is not true. She is lying. She is lying. Alan Dershowitz proved his innocence. She had to recant all of this crap. About to hear from Alan. Go ahead.
With him.
I was never, ever anywhere near her at any time. She's making the whole thing up. She is a categorical liar. I can prove categorically by documentary and other evidence that I couldn't have been in the places she said I was at the time. They accuse me of the most horrendous crime. I defend myself, and they sue me for defamation. Mistake, because now they have to be deposed. I have to be deposed. I am happy to have this out in a court of law. They will be proved, all of them, to be categorically lying and making up this story, and it will be a terrible thing for rape victims. They have put rape victims in a terrible position, because when I unequivocally prove that they sat down and made this all up, tragically, it will hurt real rape victims.
Well, a woman who claimed to have been sexually trafficked to attorney Alan Dershowitz now says she may have made a mistake in accusing him.
Virginia Giuffre, she alleged that financier Jeffrey Epstein trafficked her to Mr. Dershowitz between 2000 and 2002. This week, though, she dropped claims against Mr. Dershowitz, saying that she was young at the time that she was trafficked by Epstein in a very stressful and traumatic environment.
She said, I have long believed that I was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein to Alan Dershowitz. I now recognize I may have made a mistake in identifying Mr. Dershowitz. This litigation has been very stressful and burdensome on me and my family. We believe it is time to bring it to an end and move on with our lives.
Well, I have said from the beginning I had never heard of this woman. She was a complete and total stranger, and obviously she now admits that she may have misidentified me, confused me with someone else. Well, she certainly put me through a hell of an 8 years making an accusation. The accusation is categorically, totally false. And I want the media, Fox News, I want others to make motions seeking to unseal everything. I have nothing to hide. I want to right here now waive all of my rights to privacy. I want every videotape, every audio tape, every deposition made public so that the whole story comes out.
All right.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
President Trump saying how disappointed he is in the Supreme Court, especially certain members who let him down. There is a movement, he says, in America to make it not great. And this movement is obnoxious, ignorant, and loud. True that. Pump up the volume a little bit as he speaks from the briefing room.
Tariffs remain. They all remain. I don't know if you know that or not. They all remain. We're still getting them. And we will after the decision. I guess there's nobody left to appeal to. But again, those three people, such respect. I've had a lot of respect for them anyway, but such great respect. But other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives. Great alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money. And we'll be a lot stronger for it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so. To show you how ridiculous the opinion is, however, the court said that I'm not allowed to charge even $1. I can't charge $1. Can't charge $1. I would have used 1 penny, but we don't make the pennies anymore. We save money. Can't charge $1 to any country under IEPA.
IEPA.
$1.
The emergency tariff thing. It's going to be fascinating how this plays out. We're not finished. He's got a plan. Be right back.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, hi. I want to go back to the White House. He's all fired up, and understandably so. Put up President Trump. He doesn't like what the Supreme Court did, striking down the tariffs in a 6-3 vote. And there will be alternatives. There are alternatives at our disposal. Go ahead.
It was pointed out before, even thousands of victories over the years. To the contrary, the Supreme Court did not overrule tariffs. They merely overruled a particular use of IEPA tariffs. And essentially, it's the use to get a fee. I can do anything I want with IEPA. Anything. I just can't charge anybody for it. I can license, I just can't charge them. It's ridiculous, but it's okay because we have other ways, numerous other ways. The ability to block, embargo, restrict, license, or impose any other condition on a foreign country's ability to conduct trade with the United States under IEPA has been fully confirmed by this decision. So now there's no doubt, because, there were a lot of questions about tariffs because no president was smart enough to use them to protect our country from those countries and businesses that were ripping us off.
He's been saying that a lot. That this decision, bad for America, this 6-3 decision. I'd like to bring in the greatest lawyer I know and the bravest, Joe diGenova, former U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C., and I know the law is a pretty big world there. And Joe, but what is your reaction to this decision from the Supreme Court that the tariffs were wrong?
Well, it seemed from the oral argument that this is what they were going to do. What I was very disappointed in the court is that it did not deal with the question of the refunds. I think it was a terrible mistake by the court not to deal with what is the remedy in a situation like this, where a president is exercising presumptive authority, and then the Supreme Court says, well, the president doesn't have that authority, and all these tariffs have been imposed. What I believe the court should have done is said, given the nature of the tariff and the interpretation of IEEPA, we will allow the past tariffs to stand, but there can be no future tariffs under this. They clearly had it within their authority to do that, recognizing the president's power in foreign affairs, his singular authority in foreign affairs. So I'm very disappointed. I think the three dissenters have written really excellent analysis of why this decision is wrong. They were outvoted 6-3, so the law is the law. I think it creates a massive complication for the president and for the administration. The Treasury Department says they have enough money to pay back the $178 million in tariffs that have been collected. Given the United States budget, which is in trillions, that's not a lot of money. However, it is disruptive, and it gives the Democrats an arguing point, and it gives people like the Brits who are fighting us on Diego Garcia for the Iran attack another argument. So I think all in all, it's not a good day, but I think that they'll be able to figure out how to deal with it. But again, I think the Supreme Court should have done something, said something, and done something about the refund issue, and they didn't. And I think that is really regrettable.
Joe, stay with me. Fantastic points. I want to hear President Trump taking question on this right now.
Firm decision now, and I don't think the court meant it, because the court doesn't show great spirit toward our country, in my opinion. A lot of bad decisions, but there are usually ways around it. This is something we could have done, as Justice Kavanaugh said, we could have done this originally, but we're doing it now, and the numbers could be far greater than the hundreds of billions we've already taken in. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, I'm very curious. You've spoken about
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Justice Thomas and Alito, as you know, are the most conservative constitutional justices. Do you think that you'll get to appoint two more justices later this term with similar ideologies? And what type of vetting process will they go through to ensure they uphold? I
don't know, but they're great justices. That's all I can say. And I hope they're going to be around a long time. I hope they're going to stay healthy. They're great people. They're great. And Justice Alito, too, to add to the group. These are great men.
Right.
With a great love of our country and a great understanding of the law.
Mr. President, are you going to ask Congress to take additional action on tariffs now?
No, I don't need to. It's already been approved. I mean, I would ask Congress and probably get it. When people look at the real numbers and you look at hundreds of billions of dollars that have come into our country. Yesterday I was at a steel plant, as you know, and I went to great place, great plant, great, wonderful people. And they were telling me, I said to them, you were there, a lot of the press in this room. Of course, I don't think this plane's big enough to take the press in this room, but
so
right here.
Joe, it's interesting. I love hearing him talk about this. What he reveals more than any other president I remember is a familiarity with the arguments, with the substance, and a real attachment, like a visceral, emotional, and also intellectual attachment to his position, America's position. I don't know if any other president has talked about decisions like he's doing right now. I could be wrong.
Well, I think you're right, and it shows his sense of his personal investment in the presidency his belief in the presidency as one of the three branches of government, the executive branch, his belief in the centrality of the presidency to the well-being of the country. It is a truly Jacksonian view of the presidency, and he is superb at it. The president has a lot of skills. You can argue that his substantive arguments on this are not as good as they should be, but that's really wrong. When you look at the three dissents from the justices, they are very powerful in their approval of what the president did. And I think those three dissents give him a lot of comfort in the knowledge that his decision-making was based in good faith on his belief in the power of the presidency under that act. I think they probably have plans underway already to reimpose various tariffs based on other statutes and other interpretations. And I'm assuming that they're going to do that. What they do about the remedies remains to be seen. I can't, by the way, it wasn't $175 million, it was $175 billion.
Oh, I figured, yeah.
Yeah, I made a mistake when I said that earlier. But the bottom line is this. That's still a pinprick in our budget. And the bottom line is that can be dealt with through either negotiations or through more litigation. I don't think any money is going to be paid back right away, I can assure you.
Do you think, what do you make of John Roberts? We know about Ketanji Brown Jackson, Elena Kagan, and these others. But John Roberts, there are people who are deeply suspicious of him for a long time now. What's your assessment?
Well, I think Roberts did what he always does. I think I would say that he wrote the opinion in such a way that he basically apologized for doing what he had to do. He said, look, we don't have any role to play in foreign affairs or the exercise of foreign power. All we can do is interpret a statute. And so he was trying to make it look like that they were playing a minimalist role in this great constitutional battle, which, of course, is utter nonsense. They were the central player in a great constitutional debate about tariffs. And he came down on the side of the tariffs. Now, if you read his opinion, it's fairly, there's nothing dramatic or masterful about it. It basically says the statute reads this, and it doesn't say anything about tariffs. And so, therefore, we don't believe, I and the other five do not believe that he has the power to impose these tariffs. I think if you read the dissents, you could easily see a way that you could have gotten this decision to go the other way. But since the president lost Gorsuch and Barrett, I think this decision tells us more about Gorsuch and Barrett than it does about Roberts.
Yeah, Gorsuch and Barrett. I know that Barrett hates him. I mean, remember that look she gave him at the State of the Union? I don't care what they say. That woman hates Trump. Hey, one other thing before we go. I want to get you on, because we've never talked about it. The more I look at the Jeffrey Epstein thing, the more I agree with President Trump that this is a hoax. I mean, I can't tell you, the deeper I get, I'm like, wait a second. Pedophilia is a horrible, horrible thing. And it's just so infuriating that it happens, and it must be stopped wherever. But these accusers against Epstein, most of them were women, adults, when they said the abuse occurred. That's like my biggest, wait, what the hell is going on? And this, the Virginia Jeffrey person who made the accusation against Prince Andrew had to take back everything she said about other people like Dershowitz and the rest. And one more thing, she was 17 when she met Andrew, and whether they had sex or not, that's the age of consent in the UK, 16 and up. So I've become very skeptical of this whole damn thing. I think it's mass hysteria. Where are you coming from on that?
Oh, I have never thought much of the Epstein case. I thought this was a great waste of public time and money. The Democrats insisted on it, and they got what they wanted. They got legislation passed, which did terrible damage to our judicial system by removing the secrecy of the grand jury and revealing all this information. I think innocent people have been harmed. I don't think the victims have been helped one bit. There had been ongoing negotiations for compensation for various other victims who were discovered. Nobody has been denied compensation. This is basically prurient interest The issue with Prince Andrew, that's for the UK government. I don't see I have no interest in that. I mean, if he committed crimes because he overstepped his bounds when he was the trade minister or whatever it was, that's fine. Let the UK handle that. But I think the rest of it I think it's been overblown. It's taken up a lot of public time and effort that could be spent more wisely on other things. But, this is where we are, unfortunately. And the media, of course, is responsible for most of this because they are useless, incompetent, unprofessional, and they want to sell papers and they want to sell airtime. So, there you are.
Yeah, no, it's wild. Well, Joe diGenova, so grateful for you. We thank you very, very much. Former U.S. Attorney of Washington, D.C., and so much more. And best to your amazing wife, Victoria.
Thank you, Greg. You bet. Folks, I want to dip back into to the White House because he's not done. And I tell you, the thoughtfulness. How did Joe describe it? The personal investment, the well-being of the country, the centrality of the presidency to the well-being of the country. It's all here. Go ahead.
A lot of times you'll read a dissent and it's like, well, you don't know, it could go either way. There's no other way. The good news is, it's like Justice Kavanaugh said, very strongly said, you have other ways you can go. You don't have to go that way. You can go other way. There are numerous other ways you can go. And frankly, this should have been done by presidents many years ago. They allowed our country to be eaten alive. We lost 50% of our car business. We used to make cars. We made all the cars. And then Mexico came, Canada came, and Japan and Germany. But they're all coming back now. They're all coming back at record levels. No, please. I'm not talking to you. I don't talk to CNN. It's fake news. Go ahead.
Mr. President, yesterday you made the case that the economy is the hottest it's been in a long time. Right. January jobs report beat expectations. CPI report beat expectation. Real wages are up. What would you tell Americans who are worried that this decision will kind of throw the economy that you have projected going in the right direction at a very rapid pace off track?
Well, thank you for the question. And I will say this. We really are at a very important point. I've been waiting for this decision so long. They could have made this decision a long time ago. Not complex. They're wrong on it. It's a ridiculous decision. But they should have released this a long time ago. We waited months. And that gave uncertainty. Now we have certainty. And I think you're going to see the country get much stronger because of it. Look, we were ripped off by almost every country in the world. If you look at the surpluses, almost every country in the world that did business with us, our people were stupid. And I blame presidents for it because they're ultimately the leader. We were being ripped off by almost every single country in the world had some massive surpluses. China had hundreds of billions of dollars in surpluses with the United States. They rebuilt China. They rebuilt the army. We built China's army by allowing that to happen. I have a great relationship with President Xi, but he respects our country now. Now, what we've done, I charged China a 20% tariff as a penalty for sending fentanyl in. And that was 20 times more than they could make by selling fentanyl. And I said, at some point you're going to say, and they have reduced it. Fentanyl is down by more than 30% coming into our country. Part of that is our strong border. We have a strong border now. But thank you. Thank you for your question.
Mr. President, sir, the U.S. would be, quote, financially defenseless. Are we financially defenseless right now?
No, because we're doing something in a different way. We're doing something in a very powerful way. And we're using things that some people thought we should have used in the first place. But it's more complicated. It's a little more complicated. The process takes a little more time. But the end result is going to get us more money. And I think it's going to be great. Yeah, please. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. So, since Liberation Day, there's about $175 billion in tariff revenue that is now in limbo. Do you have to refund $175 billion?
Think of it, Peter. Very fair question. They take months and months to write an opinion, and they don't even discuss that point. We've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars, not millions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And so I said, well, what happens to all the money that we took in? It wasn't discussed. Wouldn't you think they would have put one sentence in there saying that keep the money or don't keep the money, right? I guess it has to get litigated for the next 2 years. So they write this terrible, defective decision, totally defective. It's almost like not written by smart people. And what they do, they don't even talk about that. Your question is very basic. That was the first question I asked also to make you feel good. I said, what about all the money that we've taken in? Sir, they don't discuss that. How crazy is that?
What you're saying is, are you saying that you don't plan to honor refunds for companies that file for them?
I just told you the answer, right? I told you the answer. It's not discussed. We'll end up being in court for the next 5 years. Go ahead, Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. When you are talking about the relationship with countries that you have sought trade deals with, do you anticipate that they will seek to renegotiate those? What do you say to them? And do you view this as a potential undermining power for your negotiations?
We're going straight ahead with 10% straight across the board, which was the absolute right to do. And that's taking place. That's a lot of money coming into our country. And then during that period of about 5 months, we are doing the various investigations necessary to put fair tariffs or tariffs, period, on other countries. So we're doing that period, but we're immediately instituting the 10% provision, which we're allowed to do. And in the end, I think we'll take in more money than we've taken in before.
Mr. President, you've used the tariff revenue to pay for a host of federal policies. You claim that they will pay for them. What happens?
Well, like the farmers. We took care of farmers. You know, the farmers were mistreated by foreign countries very badly, very, very badly. And last week I gave them $12 billion out of tariff money.
This is mastery. And I love it. It's a battle may have been lost, but the war, oh man. Actually, not even, it's like a temporary setback. Temporary. But to hear the mastery and the care for the country, that's really beautiful. Even in an alleged defeat, there can be victory. Experts say this flu season is the worst we've seen in 25 years. Either way, you know how this goes. Every year, someone in my family gets sick, then everyone gets sick, and suddenly you're fighting to see a doctor or stuck waiting in a crowded urgent care. Not this year. I'm ready. I ordered a medical emergency kit, and it's been a lifesaver. My kit is stocked with essential prescription medications, antibiotics like a generic Z-Pak to help you recover faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, and prescriptions for nausea, UTIs, and they've got some ivermectin in there, and it's very simple. Match your symptoms in the guidebook, or you can call the telemedicine doctor who's standing by. Start treatment early, feel better faster, no waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines. I love my medical emergency kit, and you should get one too. I got you $45 off when you use my code GREG, G-R-E-G. Just go to urgentcare.com/Greg. That's urgentcarekit.com/Greg. urgentcarekit.com/Greg. Promo code GREG.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
There's several Republicans have said that.
Yeah,
well, why wouldn't you just work with Congress to come up with a plan?
I don't have to
push tariffs.
I have the right to do tariffs, and I've always had the right to do tariffs, and it's all been approved by Congress, so there's no reason to do it. All we're doing is we're going through a little bit more complicated process, not complicated very much, but a little more complicated than what we had. We'll be able to take in tariffs, more tariffs. And the Congress people and the Congress,
the Canadian tariffs last week. There's been votes in the Senate against it.
Yeah, because we lost 2 Republicans or 3 Republicans because they're not good Republicans. What you don't say, you don't say that we got 215 votes.
You need 218 for something to pass.
Yeah, sure we do. We might have lost 3 votes, and we got. And what was the score on the Republican side? 215 to 3, right?
And this guy's saying, well, you got to work with Congress. You got to work with Congress. There are certain things that are in the purview of the president. This is one of them. But again, this alleged defeat, I'm reminded all over again. The mastery and the love of America.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.